Welcome to the Sales SOS podcast, where we answer your sales distress calls. I'm your host, Liz Heiman, bringing the rescue boat to your sales challenges. In this ever-changing sales environment, it's easy for leaders to feel adrift. We're here to be the beacon guiding you to success. Each episode, I'm joined by top sales experts and practitioners who have navigated this waters and come out victorious. Together, we'll uncover the insights and strategies that will help you hit your sales targets and grow your business. So if you're ready to turn your sales distress into sales success, you're in the right place. Let's dive into today's topic. Welcome to the Sales SOS podcast. I'm Liz Heiman, your host. And if you missed our last episode, we were talking about what's changing in sales. And in this episode, we want to talk about what does that mean for salespeople and the skill sets those salespeople need to have in order to be successful in this environment. And how do we identify who those people are? How do we hire people with the right skill sets? And I'm here with your Sales SOS podcast crew. Today, it's just the gals. Brynne reminded me it's Galentine. So I'm here with Brynne Tillman and Renee Bigelow. And so let's dive in. What's different? Like, what skill set do salespeople need to be effective in this world where everything is changing so rapidly? And I think it's important before we dive in to remember that there are different kinds of salespeople. And this is one of the things that I see a lot when I'm working with my clients is they're like, I want a salesperson who does everything. And I'm like, I want a unicorn, but I can't have one. Once in a while you come up with somebody who is amazing at everything, but most salespeople are not. And so what are the different kinds of salespeople? There are those outbound salespeople who dial all day long and they're focused on lead gen and new business. There's other people who are really good at answering the phone and turning that into business. There's other salespeople who are really good at business to business complex sales with enterprise and lots of buyers and all of the complexity that goes along with that. There are salespeople who are excellent at managing channels, and that's what they do. There's salespeople that are really great at being in an account and building relationships and growing it. So if you think you're hiring somebody who does all of those things, you're making a mistake. But as we talk about what skills do salespeople need, we might kind of differentiate between different kinds of roles that people have. So I don't know who wants to start, but what are some of the skills that salespeople in this day and age need to have? This crazy new landscape.
I think there are three skills. I think they're skills that it's also behaviors also that every salesperson needs, no matter what their role. The first one is curiosity. The second one is persistence. And the third one is resilience.
Yeah.
And if you come to the table with those three, no matter where you are in the sales cycle, I think you have the foundation of what you need to be successful.
I think that's true. And I think I often have conversations with sales leaders and company owners about if all you're doing is beating up on your salespeople because they're not doing what you want them to do or they haven't hit the number, you're forgetting how hard sales is and how important our team is in helping us maintain that resiliency, right? If all I get is rejection and then I get yelled at and then I get more rejection and then I get yelled at again, I'm probably not going to be successful in your organization. So resilience is important, but support is also really important as we're looking at that. And curiosity is one of my big, I think that, people ask me with salespeople, what do they need? And I can share there's certain skills and there's certain mindsets and so forth and tool sets, but really like there's some things you can't teach. You can't teach somebody to be curious. You can't teach somebody to care, right? You can't teach somebody to want to help. You can't teach those things. Those are the things in my mind that if you want an effective salesperson, creativity, compassion, curiosity, those are things you can't teach. You can help build the skill set around those things, but if they don't have them innately, if they're not creative, they don't come to every situation with a new approach, or a better way to handle it. If they don't care about the people that they're talking to, and I can't help you fix that. I think salespeople need to have that, regardless of what role they play. Renee, what have you got for us?
Um, I will tell you a couple. I mean, I think that the ones you have identified are like kind of critical base level at the essence of their being kind of things. So maybe this is the next layer of it, but I would say a great communicator.
Yeah.
Because because sales is going to have to get in front in the market more than they have been used to in a very long time, right? Like they're going to have to start those conversations, put those triggers in front of people to get them thinking about them, because they've got to get there earlier, as Brynne said, to help them look up the mountain, get them as they're looking up, not climbing, right? So good communicators. I think they have to be people who want to help, because that's what sales is. It's helping solve problems, right? Like, so they have to be people who want to help. And so I think there's often a little bit of a tired stereotype around sales about the big egos. The ego is fine as long as it's behind wanting to help. Like if you're really successful at helping people, I'm fine with you having an ego as long as you always want to help, right? And the other, I would say, third one, I'm going to throw in a bonus one too, but the other of the top three would be consensus builder. And I think, again, stereotype was that sales could come in and beat the drum and say, this is how I have to have it or whatever, because I bring in the revenue. I'm using old stereotypes, but they still kind of float around out there. But too many decisions are made by committee now. I mean, even on the B2C side, like my husband and I have to agree on a purchase too, right? So if you do what most car dealers do and talk to him when I go in, guess what? We're not buying a car from you because you've already pissed off the other side. Sorry, I'm the one that today. I'm usually not the one that does a swear word. I did it today because I get fired up on this topic. I can't tell you how many car dealers try to talk to my husband when it's my car we're going to buy, right? So like you have to be a consensus builder, and that works on the internal side too. If you want something unique for, a unique solution for your customer, and it requires other departments to do it, you've got to be able to build consensus internally as well. So like there's no choice. Internal and external requires that consensus building, those three. And I'll say my bonus one is you cannot refuse to be technologically savvy. You do not have to be the expert in everything. It should be on us as leaders to help make that easier. But it is part of the go-to-market motion now. Customers expect us to know a lot of data about them. They expect us to keep good notes, have good information. So when they talk to us, they don't have to repeat. It improves their experience. And that means you're going to have to work with some technology. So you can't just say, I'm here to sell, not populate your CRM, or I don't want to deal with AI. I'm all about relationships, right? So I think it's a bonus one. It's not as critical as the other three, but in the way the world operates, you can't reject technology and say, oh, that's not for me. I'm just selling.
I think that's super important. We don't function in this world today without technology. And if you're in an organization that is not using AI, and you don't have a CRM, and you don't have a process to help keep momentum with the sales that you have, you're not going to be able to compete, because your competitors are using a CRM that helps remind them of the next step and gives them ideas of what to do and what to say and lets them know when they've missed something important. And they have AI that is helping them communicate better and research. One of my favorite things that AI does for a salesperson is I can go research all about an industry and a company. If the company is too small, I can certainly research their industry. So if you're not leveraging the tools and you're not open to leveraging the tools that are out there, then you're not going to be able to compete. And you really, truly do become the dinosaur in the room. And, that's whether you're 35 or 85. You've got to be able to use the technology that's around you to even begin to be competitive.
Yeah, and Liz, I'm so glad you pointed it out. It's not an age thing. I actually see a lot of young people who are like, this is what went into sales because I didn't want to sit on a computer all day long or something like that. Right. Like, it's not an age thing. These are mindsets. I think, everything that we've said is probably more mindset than skill. Right.
And we need to be willing to pick up the phone and have a conversation. Sales happens in conversations, and we are so tied to email and text messaging now that we don't actually have conversations. So much more can happen in a conversation. So if you're afraid to have the conversation, if you're afraid to be annoying and pick up the phone and have talk to somebody, you're going to struggle. And I'm gonna again help Brynne get her part of the conversation started again, because I am almost hesitant. In fact, I am hesitant to hire somebody who has no LinkedIn connections. So what are you going to leverage? I'm just going to hand you a list and you're going to dial. Great. If you're in that role of an inside salesperson who all you do is dial all day, great. But if you're a sales executive of any kind and you don't have the Rolodex, which is now your LinkedIn, I'm really questioning your ability to build relationships and leverage relationships and be successful. So, Brynne, take us further down that path, because I think it's really important.
Yeah. So not only is it important for hiring for a Rolodex, which, if you're hiring someone out of school in an SDR role, the expectations are a little bit lower. But if you're hiring a professional salesperson, we expect them to come with relationships. Now, maybe they're not even relationships in your specific industry, but I want to know that they know how to network. And what'll happen is, if they've got those deep relationships, we can map out their social proximity to the people you want to meet. So who do they know that can get you there is almost as important as who do you know that is there, right? So that social proximity is really important. But also, and this is something we're talking a lot more to companies about, is, you know, in our remote working world, territories have changed. So it's no longer necessary to have a physical territory.
In some industries.
In some industries, right.
Yeah.
If you have to go knock on doors and you need to be in your manufacturing and you need to be in the plant with your people, right? Whatever that might look like, sure. But in most industries, I shouldn't say, in almost all service industries or SaaS industries, right? Like they were software as a service. Rarely do you have to have someone physically in your location. So that's to be considered. So now when I am talking with sales leaders and they're breaking out, well, I have one guy in the Northeast and a gal in the Southwest, and I'm thinking, when you hire the next person, why don't we give them a territory rather than being physical? Do it based on their network. Create an ABM strategy around their network.
An account-based marketing strategy.
Sorry, an account-based marketing, or we call them account-centric sales, because usually in my world, marketing isn't all that involved. But it is, right? So, but it's I have accounts assigned to my reps. Instead of saying I'm going to assign them in a physical location, consider assigning them based on their relationships. One of the things we're seeing, especially with Sales Navigator in some of these companies, is a sales rep will say, okay, so ABC company is assigned to me, but Fred on the other side of the country knows the CEO. That should be Fred's account.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And so now I go to Fred and say, hey, Fred, can you introduce me? And he's resentful. I'm going to introduce my counterpart to a CEO that I have a relationship with, or a buyer that I have a relationship with. And maybe I'll get a little kickback, dinner out. I don't know. Right. So I think rethinking territory management and is really important these days.
Well,
So
let's dive into that more when in our next segment we're talking about management. I think it's a super important topic.
I think
We
we
have
should
a
add in
question, but
we should
Renee,
add
go
in
ahead.
that's what I was going to say. We should add in when we talk about management, this question that we had about, or just kind of a statement about, for people don't want to be behind the desk, that we need to think about that with the calls too. I can't see who that is. It says LinkedIn user, so I can't tell who asked. But yes, when we get into the management, I think we should talk about that then too.
Yeah. So the question is that they're asking is some people want to be out front and some people and don't want to be stuck behind a desk and some people would prefer that. And as a manager, how do you recognize that? So let's take that into our next conversation because I think it's really important.
I want to answer your question on LinkedIn, Liz,
Yes.
about salespeople not being on there. I do a good bit of training inside of companies when I work with clients on LinkedIn, on employee advocacy in general, and LinkedIn is a piece of that. And I am no longer surprised at how many people, particularly if they've been in a job for a while, aren't active on LinkedIn. There was a window of time. This is, I think, the explanation for it. There was a window of time where LinkedIn was seen as for applying for jobs, right? Like your resume and for looking for a job. And for the people who learned about it then and were in a job kind of happy, or like moved into the next job and didn't really need to look for it because they got recruited or something like that, and they never did it, they never got active on there. So they don't realize there's been a whole vibe shift, that it's now your business feed, right? That it is a network in the same way that you would go to the chamber meeting or the industry trade show or whatever. That same action is happening on social media, and they just don't quite realize that. So I used to be surprised, but now I'm not really that surprised at how many are not on there, right? But the reason we do this do LinkedIn as part of this employee advocacy program is our employees should be talking about things at the company, problems we solve, things that they see, like they should be out there, right? We send them to trade shows. We should have them present where their customers and their prospects are looking for information and interacting with people, just like we send them to a trade show. The ROI is much better. The other thing is we need to work with them to help them understand how to engage and interact on there in a natural way. And I think a lot of people aren't active because we haven't done that training, right? So I will often sit down with the CEO and they'll say, like, all of our people aren't on there. And I'm like, well, did you ever give them training? Like, I mean, did you ever say it's okay to talk about the company stuff? Did you say we'd love for you to? We'll give you some ideas. We'll help you with your first few ones. We will all come swarm your posts so you won't feel like you're hanging out there by yourself. When you post it, just let us know. We'll all come and comment and like, so that we feel like we're not in isolation because we are a team, right? So I just think those two things have held back a lot of energy and momentum that could be driving forward.
Yeah, I think so. So salespeople today in this modern age, they need to be creative. They need to be compassionate. They need to be resilient. They need to be persistent. They need to ask good questions. They need to build bridges. They need to find common ground, right? These are things that have always been true. It has always been true. Good salespeople have always done these things. Good salespeople do not manipulate. They do not lie. They do not pressure. They do not play games. They solve problems with people and they care about the results that those people get. Technology, we need to understand the technology around us. We need to understand the technology our competitors are using. We need to understand the technology our users, our clients are using. And we just lost Renee. And we need to understand the technology that's available to us to be successful. So I think those are sort of the important pieces of this. And I think again, going back to it's okay for a salesperson to be outgoing and to be bold and even have an ego. It's not okay for them to not listen. It's not okay for them to only care about themselves and their commission. It's not okay for them to be pushy and obnoxious and loud and always talking and telling stories. We talk about storytelling as a method for selling, but we don't really care. that much about all the stories that the salesperson has to have. And last time we were on, Daryl, who is not able to be with us today, was talking about how we have got to kill this bro culture where it's all about how cool and, I caught the bigger fish. We need to have conversations about people and what they care about. And as we're looking for salespeople, it's that balance of technology and humanity that's going to make us successful sellers. Anyway, thanks for joining us on the Sales SOS podcast. And we'll see you in the next episode. And that's a wrap of this episode of the Sales SOS podcast. A huge thank you to our experts for throwing us a lifeline with their insights. We hope today's episode has equipped you to navigate the sales seas with confidence. Never miss an episode. Subscribe to the Sales SOS podcast on your favorite platform. If you have questions, comments, or topics you'd like us to explore, join us live on LinkedIn every second Friday, or share your questions on YouTube or LinkedIn. Until next time, keep sailing towards those sales goals. I'm Liz Heiman, your captain here at the Sales SOS podcast, saying smooth sailing and successful selling.